you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have nothing left to talk about. She just reviewed everything I was going to share with you, so I guess we'll start a conversation here today instead. I think it's helpful for me to share with you why I care so much about farmers and food and ranching and rural areas. I did grow up in western Nebraska, and western Nebraska is truly the middle of nowhere. My stepson was 15 when I took him to the farm the first time, and he said, if this isn't the end of the world, I can see it from here. And so for us, to have people stop by, which was very unusual to see a truck go down the road, was a chance to welcome them as a neighbor and to share food with them. And that sense of community is just something that being a part of farming and part of a rural community, that's really what it's all about. You never feel like you're all alone. And I am so excited and so thrilled and so humbled to have been given this position that I've been given by the governor, and to be a part of the conversation about food and farming and ranching right now. Truly, all my years in the public policy arena, I have never seen so much engagement in this topic. And it's a really important one for us all to have here at the beginning of the 21st century. You know, there have been so many headlines about food in the last year. Food prices, food scarcity, food insecurity, that it was part of the turmoil that fed into the Arab Spring, that we have the UN looking at rapidly rising food prices and what that does for civil unrest. And so people in this country have never really known what that is like, even though a part of our population does. And part of what's going on with this national dialogue right now is that because it's always been there, because it's been so efficient, because so few people have been engaged in the production of that food, it's just abundantly at affordable prices, safety, quality, different production practices. It's been very easy for people to take that for granted. And guess what? You, with small farms, with farmers markets, with direct-to-consumer selling, have done a very, very important public service. You're closing the gap between a farmer and an eater. There should have never been the gulf that has been there, but there has been. And now people are really wanting to re-engage in understanding where their food comes from, the place, who produced it, the people, and how it was grown, the practices. That should be a wonderful community building exercise. And it shouldn't be about one way or the other way. We need it all. We all know the statistics that are facing us as far as the largest moral challenge that we have before us in the 21st century, which is 7 billion people today, 9 billion people in the short time by 2050. 220,000 people are born on this earth every day, and they need food to eat. And unfortunately, we don't have the sustainable farming systems in place on all the continents where those people are to be able to feed them. So we do have a place for exports, and we do have a place to reach out and teach others how to farm. And we have a place here in California and across this country to ensure that we have more direct-to-consumer food opportunities, whether it's farmers markets or CSAs or farm stands or agritourism, whatever it might be. When we think about the internet and the opportunity for my friends way up in the northern part of the state who have grass-fed organic beef, and most of their consumers are connecting with them on the internet, what a fabulous, exciting opportunity that is, that we can create those kinds of connections without actually meeting every time. And we have multitudes of those opportunities. So where do I come in on that? I am part of state government that doesn't have money anymore. which is why I can convene meetings all day long. They don't cost that much, do they, Steve? Heck no. As long as I have people like you and representatives from your organizations, we can take a look at what the challenges are and come up in a very collaborative way with solutions that will be long-lasting. One of the things that I care deeply about is looking at our regulatory framework. I think it's very fitting that the first workshop after me is regs, regs, and more regs, and I'm really glad Steve's in that session and not me. No, sir, I'm catching the plane back to Sacramento. But there are a lot of regulations, and in many ways, I have watched how we've built regs on top of regs without ever looking at it as a system. And certainly at the Department of Food and Agriculture, many of the things that probably impact your daily farming operation are things I don't even have statutory authority for. But I am here to tell you that this governor is so focused on getting our fiscal house in order and being smarter about government. And that is, he has empowered us as cabinet secretaries to reach across cabinet, to identify specific problems, and work together to come up with specific solutions. And I honestly believe that I have the best chance ever to work with my colleagues at EPA and at Resources Agency and at the Labor Agency to really be pragmatic and use good common sense about what our regulatory framework looks like. And to really challenge ourselves to think about, does one size fit all when we have the richness of the diversity of the farming community that we have in California? And that's one of the reasons I asked Steve and the folks in his department to really lead this effort to convene a work group that would be very stakeholder-driven, very inclusive, that would bring together the diverse points of view to really see if we could identify ways where we might be creating barriers unintentionally, but that the regs themselves may be outdated or may be in conflict, to really take a look at what do we need to do to say this is the farmer's market structure for today. We had a lot of good work that was done over the last couple of years. We identified a lot of the issues and potential solutions, but we couldn't quite get there. So, I'm willing to bring people together to say, let's collaborate. Let's focus on everything that we have in common and not on our differences, and see if we can't get to some long-lasting solutions that will maintain the integrity of the system, which is really at its heart about maintaining trust with our consumer. You all are in such an important position with the consumers because they are dealing directly with you and they know you and they trust you. Maintaining that trust is absolutely crucial to keeping this business model viable for you. That also means that with the Food Safety Modernization Act, which is a big, scary monster coming at us out of Washington, that we want to be equally engaged in making sure that we can tailor good agricultural practices that are pragmatic and work for the very small farm, and we're not pushing everybody through the same funnel of what that system looks like. We want to make sure that what we do helps more small farms get started, helps more small farms thrive. My dream is that 50 years from now, every one of you who's just starting a farm has had it grow because your kids want to be a part of the farming operation. Isn't that how a lot of the farms in California got to be so big? They started pretty small. They started with a lot of people from different countries who came to this state. They started small. But then, when they were lucky, not encouraging the kids to go be a doctor or an engineer, one or two of them wanted to come back to the farm, and all of a sudden, 20 acres wasn't enough to support 2 or 3 families, so they added value or they added more acreage. My dream for every one of you is that your farm becomes a farm that your children also want to farm with you. And that's why this is such an exciting time. Secretary Vilsack really, I think, identified the theme for agriculture at this time when he challenged the Senate Agriculture Committee a year and a half ago that if we had really great farm bill policy in this country, we would see 100,000 farmers over the next 5 years. And I think it's going to happen. When I look at FFA, breaking records, 70,000 kids, most of them not from farms that are part of FFA. When I look at the ag schools who are bursting at the seams and turning kids away, we're in the right business at the right time. So what can we do working together to make that happen? What can we do to help consumers appreciate that over time we've had fewer people involved in producing their food, giving it to them so that they had more discretionary income to spend on other things. Now, that cheap food policy may not be what we're going to stick with going forward, but think about our nation. 1950, one farmer was responsible for the food for 27 people. Today, a farmer is responsible for the food for 155 people. In 1950, the American family spent between 17 and 20% of their disposable income was for food prepared at home. 2010, it was about 6%. So when you have more income freed up, you could take a vacation, you could send the kids to college, you could invest in other sectors in the economy. We've improved the quality of life. So is there a little bit room in there to pay a little bit more for food to have it produced the way that we want? And that truly is at the heart of the discussion today. And I hope it doesn't end up in a food fight. I hope it is a thoughtful discussion about this is the way I farm to give the consumer the choices they're looking for in the marketplace.